Let's get back to this trade story that has the market bouncing around today, and mostly lower, down 117 on the Dow. One of the things that's out there comes from the European Union, where officials have proposed 25% tariffs on American goods, a number of different things in response to the suggestion from the president of these steel and aluminum tariffs. So the Europeans want to come back and tax our items, whether it be blue jeans, Harley-Davidson motorcycles, bourbon, orange juice, on and on. The Federalist staff writer Payton is here, and Republican advisor Lee Spieckerman also is here. Bree, let me start with you. This is the fear, right, from people that this is how these things develop into what we call a trade war. And I should point out the European plan, such as it is, if it ever goes forward, is targeted at, it appears, Republicans. They want to go after Republican states and the products that are made in some of those Republican states. So you don't hear, for example, of California wine, which is made in a blue state, a Democratic state, being on their list. And that's actually true. So what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I think that seeing some kind of a pushback from the European Union was to be expected. I mean, we've known that they were upset about this for quite some time. Whether or not they'll actually go through with it remains to be seen. And, you know, a lot of the details about Trump's proposed tariffs remain murky. You know, there's a lot of questions. And I mean, So, okay, we're proposing these tariffs. We're getting some pushback. I think it raises a lot of questions about the long-term benefits. Are we just playing a larger game of, you know, chicken? Are we playing poker to try to negotiate and get better trade deals going forward? I think that that's, you know, something that we should be talking about and thinking about. Yeah, I know a lot of people have the last 2 days, say, since the president's NAFTA-related tweet came out yesterday and some of the comments he made in the Oval yesterday. We'll see, Lee, what he says today. He has this joint news conference this afternoon. I'm sure he'll be asked. Well, I'm never sure, but he probably will be asked about trade by one of the reporters at that news conference. The question, though, Lee, is are we seeing a major shift in strategy from a White House as opposed to just negotiating on one or two trade deals, where you're going to see a move here away from globalism, which seems to become a dirty word, towards, you know, nationalism, as the president would say it, or just protectionist trade policies? We're going to be more protectionist.
Well, I think we are, and I think that's terrific, because President Trump is exactly right on the trade issue. The establishment Republicans like Paul Ryan are dead wrong.
Tell us why.
What we're talking about is Americanism here.
We talk about economics. A lot of people say, I talked about globalism being a dirty word. For years, the word protectionist had been you don't want to be called a protectionist. I mean, oh, no, I'm not a protectionist. But you're saying not only is the president that, but it's a good thing. Explain.
Yes, Connell. Well, first of all, as to the European threat, we have a $150 billion trade deficit with the EU. So why don't they do that? Let's see how that works out for them. We overall have an $800 billion goods trade deficit in this country. That translates into 3.5 million jobs that have been sucked out of our country. And you know what? We have too many people in the Republican establishment that are worried about capital flows and dollar flows, and they want to rationalize this. Hey, the numbers don't lie. $800 billion deficit year after year. It's actually expanding. The only country, a major trading partner where it's going down is South Korea. So we've absolutely got to do what I would recommend. The change in strategy to take it a step further than the president has is just a uniform import tariff on all imported goods. I would say 10 to 15%, because that way you're not penalizing any specific countries. That would raise in revenue over the 10-year budget window over $2 trillion. That's enough to make all of the middle income tax cuts in the Trump tax relief that was just passed permanent, so they don't expire. It's enough to fund a repeal and replace of Obamacare. It's enough to seed an infrastructure bank and to keep us from having trillion-dollar deficits.
You've ratcheted up even another notch or two there from
that's how it ought to be done.
What the president is talking about. So Lee is basically making this zero-sum argument game, which is what the president has argued for some time. That trade is a zero-sum game. You either win or you lose. A lot of people say it's not that simple, that many times both countries win, even if there is a so-called deficit on one side. What's your counter?
Right. I mean, I think that industries that are regulated to the least degree possible flourish, and I think that free trade is a good thing when both entities are acting and behaving equitably and fairly. And I think what we have now is not. I think what we have now is not really free trade with certain countries
that might be true. So then what do you do about it? I'll let you take it first, Bree, because I would assume your suggestions wouldn't be as draconian or whatever, as aggressive as what Lee is saying. What do we do about it? You're saying there is a problem, right? It's not that you're saying there's not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there definitely is a problem. I think imposing a steel tariff, however, raises a lot of questions. There's approximately, by Harvard estimates, 80 times more industries that employ 80 times more, companies that use steel to make goods than those that,
far more using it than making it, far more.
Right, and also, and it's not just industries that make things out of steel. It's things that are made out of plastic. I mean, this water bottle cap in my hand is made out of plastic, and it's polycarbonate plastic that was used in a steel mold. So I mean, a lot of plastic parts, a lot of plastic things, everything basically is going to get more expensive because of this steel tariff.
No, I understand it. By the way, the market's off the lows if you guys are paying attention. We're only down 78 now. This will have to be the last point, Lee. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they often, the establishment and the so-called free traders raise the thing of components costing more money. That's a big part of our trade problem. We need to repatriate the American supply chain, and we need to bring those jobs for the components back here. 800 billion trade deficit, 3.5 million jobs. We need that, and we also need the revenue from a trade tariff to make the middle income tax cuts permanent.
This is probably, I bet this is what the arguments sound like with Gary Cohn and Peter Navarro standing in front of the president's desk in the Oval Office.
Cohn is wrong on this one. He's dead wrong on this one.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Bree. We appreciate it. It's a good discussion. We'll keep having it.